This past decade was filled with unbelievable sports moments, so I had to figure, why don't I make my own top 10 list on this episode of Out of Left Field. Now, it was so hard to make this list. There's hundreds of amazing moments, but I had to just pick 10. Now, of course, I'm picking the best moments, but I'm also picking what those moments actually meant for the sport itself. So, start off with number 10. We're going back to 2012 when Miguel Cabrera won the Triple Crown. Entering the 2012 season, Miguel Cabrera was well on his way to the Hall of Fame already, but winning the Triple Crown basically made it a done deal. He finished the year batting .330 with 44 home runs and 139 RBIs. That's a lot. It's a great year. And also, he won the MVP, beating out Mike Trout. He's the first guy since 1967, a guy named Carl Yastrzemski, to win the Triple Crown. Only a handful of players have ever done it. He's the first Latin American player to ever do it. It's very important for the game of baseball and one of the best moments of the decade. We haven't seen it in so long, that's why it's so important. He was one of the greatest right-handed hitters of all time. Now, to say that this is number 10 is a stretch for some people, but for me, definitely one of my favorite moments. Now let's go to number 9 for a guy who had a rough decade, but he finished the decade on a high note. Tiger Woods winning the Masters. This was more than a Masters victory for Tiger Woods. I'll talk about the details in a second, but here's some of the numbers. This is his 5th green jacket, his 15th career major. He's the second oldest to win the Masters behind 46-year-old Jack Nicklaus. But here's the real kicker. The guy's had a real bad story past. With cheating, fusion surgery, abuse to alcohol and drugs, it's been a rough time. I mean, you saw clips of him falling on the ground after hitting some tee shots. A lot of people thought, including experts, that he was never going to play again, or never play to where he was being the best golfer in the world. But he won the Masters in dramatic fashion, sinking the putt, and then the greatest part of all, running up to his son, hugging him. I mean, I watched this live. It was unbelievable. Congrats to Tiger. Let's hope we can see some more major victories in the future. Now let's go to one of the biggest upsets of the decade. In 2018, when UMBC beat number 1 Virginia in the NCAA tournament in the first round. There was early madness in the NCAA tournament. Number 16 UMBC was facing number 1 Virginia. Now, for a 16 seed to be a 1 seed doesn't happen. 0-135 since the tournament expanded to 64 teams in 1985. So basically, you don't win out of a 16 seed, but UMBC thought otherwise. The game started with 4 separate lead changes in the first half. Coming out of halftime, the Retrievers went on an early 7-2 run before Virginia used their first of 3 remaining timeouts of the game. The game started to get really out of hand. The Retrievers would go on a ton of runs, and the Cavaliers couldn't catch up. The final 2 minutes would see the Retrievers extend their lead to finish the game 74-54. The Cavaliers, who led the NCAA in scoring defense at 53.4 points per game, were outscored in the final 20 minutes by 20 points. They've never lost by 20 in 2018, and that's fucking insane. How is number 1 Virginia gonna lose to number 16 UMBC? It's the best upset of the decade, but unfortunately UMBC didn't make it that far. They ended up losing to number 9 Kansas State, but with a short run like that, we'll still remember this as one of the greatest, unbelievable Cinderella stories of the past decade and maybe ever. Next on our list, we have number 7, when the Women's World Cup team defeated the Netherlands 2-0 and absolutely kicking the shit out of everybody in the 2019 FIFA World Cup. The United States is the most successful women's team on the planet. They've won 3 of the last 4 World Cups, and this one was pretty much the best one. They entered as favorites to repeat after the 2015 title, and yet somehow they still topped expectations. It started in the 13-0 opening match blowout of Thailand, and that was just the beginning. Stars Alex Morgan, Julia Ertz, Megan Rapinoe, and countless others outscored opponents 26-3 and became the first women's team to win 4 World Cups. Off the field, they took the world by storm, being very vocal during the tournament for equal pay, and they were just heroes to little girls all over the world. I mean, you saw them on the ESPYs, you saw them on Ellen, you saw them during parades, preaching about women's rights. That's huge in my book, and it's definitely huge on this list. Now, at number 6, we have a very important interception in Super Bowl 49 when Malcolm Butler picked off Russell Wilson. It was February 1st, 2015, and Tom Brady and the Patriots are seeking their 4th Super Bowl championship. They have the tough task of facing Seattle Seahawks with Russell Wilson, Marshawn Lynch, and the Legion of Boom. Now, let's fast forward to the good part. Butler was covering wide receiver Jermaine Kearse and deflected a 33-yard pass by Russell Wilson. As Kearse fell to the ground, he started to juggle it and made an amazing catch. This is said to be one of the greatest catches in Super Bowl history. I mean, think of the other ones, Mario Manningham and David Tyree. Patriots get screwed when it comes to ridiculous catches. 2 plays later and 20 seconds remaining, the Seattle Seahawks were 1 yard shy from winning the Super Bowl. Now, the smart thing was to run the ball, but they didn't. 142 million Americans knew the play was to run with Marshawn Lynch, and the Patriots even knew that. But Pete Carroll and Russell Wilson thought otherwise, and they passed the ball to Ricardo Lockett. Who the fuck is Ricardo Lockett? I don't know who that is. The Patriots didn't know who that was. The entire world doesn't know who that is. You could have had Tyler Lockett. You could have had Jermaine Kearse catch. He already made an amazing catch already. Throw it to him. Or why didn't you run it with Marshawn Lynch? Malcolm Butler picked that off, and the game was over. This was the most shocking and one of the best endings in Super Bowl history. But it's not the best moment on my list. For number 5, it's a little different. It's not a sporting event. It's a TV moment. It's called a decision. Now, this moment's a little bit different. LeBron James just won the MVP. He just lost in the conference semifinals to the Boston Celtics. I mean, you guys remember the video of him walking in the tunnel after the Game 6 loss, taking off the jersey. Was this the last time we're going to see him in a Cavs uni? Well, it was. On July 8, 2010, ESPN broadcast a live TV event called The Decision. Freelance sportscaster Jim Gray pitched the idea to James's management and ESPN for an hour-long show in which James would announce his decision. Everybody wanted LeBron on their team, but only a handful of teams were rumored. The Heat had money. They just re-signed D-Wade. And D-Wade and LeBron are best friends. Got drafted the same year. They chill on vacation together with their families. It's a tight-knit group. And it ended up happening. LeBron signed with the Heat. Then they got a sign and trade deal to get Toronto Raptors forward Chris Bosh. And that's what started the dynasty.
LeBron, what's your decision?
In this fall, man, this is very tough. In this fall, I'm going to take my talents to South Beach and join the Miami Heat.
It was a huge moment in TV history because we've never seen anything like this before. The spotlight is on one guy and we're watching an hour-long program of it. LeBron went on winning MVPs in NBA Finals, and then he ended up leaving and going back home to Cleveland. But we'll talk about him in Cleveland towards the end of our episode here. But number 4 is a pretty damn good one. On November 30th, 2013, Alabama and Auburn played the 78th Iron Bowl. Now, the crazy thing about this is that Alabama had an NFL team. Listen to these names: Derrick Henry, Amari Cooper, Landon Collins, Eddie Jackson, HaHa Clinton Dix, CJ Mosley, Kenyon Drake, OJ Howard, and AJ McCarron. That's insane. But Auburn just needed one guy to win. His name was Chris Davis. Let me paint the picture for you. There's 1 second left. It's tied up at 28. Bama is about to attempt a 57-yard field goal. Why would you do that, Saban? Your field goal kicker missed 3 field goals prior to this attempt. Why wouldn't you just knee it, force OT, see what you can do from there? But no, they went for it, and Auburn saw an opportunity to put Chris Davis in the back of the end zone and maybe try a return. Well, he laced up those PF Flyers and he was gone. Touchdown, game over, 109 yards. It's unofficial though, because NCAA doesn't count yardage out of the end zone. So officially it was 100 yards, but I'm gonna take the 109. One of the craziest endings to a game of this decade. But this next moment is a personal favorite of mine. The 2016 Cubs breaking the curse. If you're a big baseball fan like me, you know this World Series means a ton. Now the Cubs and Indians haven't won the World Series in quite some time. The Indians haven't won one in 68 years. Last time they even went to one was in 1997 when they faced the Florida Marlins. It's when Edgar Renteria hit the walk-off single in the 10th inning of Game 7. Tragic. Now the Cubs, it's been a little longer. Since 1908, it's 108 years. Imagine 108 years of never winning a ring. As a Yankee fan, I have to live like that. But the Cubbies that year won 103 games, had a ridiculous starting lineup with unbelievable veteran pitching. It almost seemed too good to be true. Now, Game 7 was unbelievable. It started to get really juicy when Rajai Davis hit a 98-mile-an-hour fastball to Aroldis Chapman in the bottom of the 8th inning to tie the game up at 6. I couldn't even believe that happened. My mouth dropped to the floor. I said to myself, are the Cubs really going to lose this thing? There's no chance the Indians can lose now. But they found a way. In the top of the 10th inning, with 2 on and 1 out, old man Ben Zobrist hits a ball past the diving Ramirez and 1 run scores. The Cubs now lead 7-6. Miguel Montero then singles, another run scores, and now it's 8-6. The Indians try and battle back with 1 in the bottom of the 10th, but the Cubs would win their first title since 1908. This is definitely the best baseball moment of the decade, and personally, one of my favorites. Now we're gonna go back to LeBron James for our number 2 slot, with LeBron coming back from 3-1 and one of the most famous blocks in NBA Finals history, the block. LeBron James is back in Cleveland, and his only goal was to win an NBA title. Now, the city of Cleveland has had a 52-year drought. No championships in the last 52 years. So it's about time they got one. LeBron and the Cavs were down 3-1 in the series, and they came back and won. Now, let's go into some of the highlights of this game. The Cavs won games 5 and 6 by a landslide and forced a series deciding Game 7. The final 3 minutes of the game was unreal. Legit 1 basket was scored and 1 free throw during that time. Just amazing defense, and the best play of the game was the block. With 1:56 to play, Irving released a floater that bounced off the glass that was eventually grabbed by Andre Iguodala. With the game tied at 89, Iguodala immediately ran down the other side of the court with nobody in sight, and then a giant shadow appeared. It was LeBron. This block was the biggest block of the game, and it's the most important clutch defensive play in NBA history. One of the best moments of the game was at the end when LeBron fell to his knees and started crying. All he wanted to do was win a ring at home, for his home fans, where he was raised. It's all he wanted to do, and he did it. That's the second best sports moment of the decade. Before we list the number 1 sports moment of the decade, here are some honorable mentions that were left off my list.
Steps into it, pass is caught! Diggs! Sideline! Touchdown! Unbelievable! Vikings win it!
James catches, puts up a 3. Won't go. Rebound box. Back out to Allen. His 3-pointer. Bang!
Breeze hits it in the air to center. We will see you tomorrow night.
It's off to Leonard, defended by Simmons. Is this the dagger?
Oh! The Lakers down 1. Will Kobe give them one last gamer? Bryant on the move with the jumper. He my! 58 points! Mamba out.
Damn, those are some unbelievable moments in this past decade that I had to leave off my list. But the number 1 spot on my list is the Patriots in 2016, and they erased a 28-3 lead in Super Bowl 51. The most memorable part of this comeback was with 2:28 to go in the fourth quarter, down by 8, and needed 64 yards to get into the end zone. Brady drops back and fires a pass up the middle to Julian Edelman. The first person to touch the ball was Falcons corner Robert Alford. Alford couldn't snag it, and the ball spun up in the air, and it felt like an eternity. Edelman was also outnumbered 3-1. Then Edelman somehow caught the ball inches before it hit the ground. Finally, the Patriots were on the right side of a Super Bowl miracle catch. Brady even said it was one of the greatest catches I've ever seen. The fact that Dan Quinn didn't get fired after this game is insane, beyond me. I don't understand. All you to do is run the ball, time would expire, Falcons win. It's pretty easy. I mean, if I said I can just do it like that, I would have done it. But Dan Quinn is an idiot, and they lost the game. That's it. Falcons also had a 99.8% chance of winning the game by the third quarter, and they still lost with a percentage like that. Incredible. Now the Patriots won the toss in OT, then they were mowing down the field with ease, and then a quick toss to James White on the right side, and he was in there for the touchdown. Game over. The greatest quarterback, the greatest coach, the greatest comeback, the best moment of the decade goes to the Patriots. So, if you like my list, please give a like, comment if you want to. And if not, let me know who I left out. I know I left out Minnesota Miracle, the Ray Allen's 3. I know I missed a ton. Let me know. Also, go listen to our sports podcast, End of the Bench. I know a lot of you guys listen. Keep subscribing, give us a review. And also follow us on Twitter and Facebook and Instagram. We're on all 3 of those. So, yeah, that's it. Sports Moments of the Decade. Unbelievable. Thank you for watching.